Hello everyone, Danasa here with Action VFX.
In today's tutorial, we will learn how to create this upside-down style environment from Stranger Things. This will be a very easy effects using our Action VFX asset collections, such as smoldering surfaces, burn mark textures, air particles, and a couple others.
Before we move forward with the video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification icon so you will not miss out on more contents like this one.
And now, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so this is our plate. The first thing I want to do is I want to right click on our timeline here, and we're gonna go to columns and turn on the modes and switches. That way we have the complete display of all of our switches and the blending modes at the same time. So now I want to track my plate here and then add in our elements to the wall on the right. For this, you could do any kind of tracking, such as planar tracking or point tracking. But because I'm going to have a lot of elements that I want to comp on the wall and also the atmosphere, and I don't want to retrack everything every time I added a new element, so what I will do is to use 3D tracking to essentially get the whole scene tracked in 3D space. That way, I have a one moving camera, and if I want to add elements, I can just drop in into the scene. So let's get 3D camera tracker and let it track. And then once we have our tracking done, we're gonna go to advanced here and change the soft method to tripod pan. The reason for this is because our camera, as we can see here, is still sitting on the same spot while it is rotating upwards. So that way, when we change this to tripod pan, we will be getting a more accurate solve for the points that we will use to place our elements. So the first elements that we want to add are the burning portal wall on the side. So let's select one point here, and then we're going to create null and camera. And then I want to add one of Action VFX burn mark textures, which you can get completely for free on our website. And then let's set this to 3D layer, and then we want to copy the position of the 3D null that we just created and paste it to the burn mark layer. And then let's scale this down, and then we want to place this on the side here and squish it a little bit. Now we can rotate this to fit the angle of the wall, but on this specific shot there is actually not a lot of difference with rotating this. So I'm just going to keep this layer facing our direction. And then let's color correct this to match the scene. So let's add tint to our burn mark layer and then map the black color to a black color on the scene. And that way we have our burn mark texture blended a little bit more to the scene. Next, I want to add some dark veiny roots effects on our portal base here. So let's create a solid, and then let's add fractal noise. Now, let's change the fractal type to smeary and hit the invert, and then we want to change the contrast to 200 and brightness to -25, and then let's scale this to 175. And then let's get CC vector blur, and we want to set this to 7. And then we're going to get rid of this black splotches and leave only the bright areas. So let's type in unmold on the effects tab, and we're going to pick this unmold preset from RB After Effects. And there we go, we have got rid of all the black background. And then we're going to pre-compose this, so Ctrl-Shift-C, let's name it Fractal Vein Precomp, and move all attributes to a new composition. And then we want to turn this into 3D, and let's copy the position of the null again, and then scale this down, and then let's place this around here. So our vein currently looks a bit flat, and I want to add a little bit of dimension to it. So let's get emboss. So now what's happening here is that emboss adds this fake highlight and shadow based on the brightness of our texture, and that way this creates this fake bumpiness effects on our layer. So let's change the light direction of the emboss here. So it looks like the light is coming from the left side, just like in the scene. And then I want to set the contrast to 360. There we go. And now we have a stronger looking bump. And then let's recolor this to fit the scene. So let's get tint. And for the black color, just like before, we want to set it to a black color on the scene. And for the brightness, we want to set it to a brighter color in the scene. There we go. So now it looks a bit more bonded into the wall. And then I want to create a mask surrounding our vein here. And then if you want, you can duplicate this to populate the scene a little bit more. Maybe create this one here for the wall on this side. And then we want to redo the mask to make it fill that wall area. Next, I want to add the bigger vein root coming out of the portal. So let's create a black solid and let's name it Big Veins. And then what I want to do is to draw a root-like shape on the solid here. And then let's turn this into 3D again and position it in the same place as the other elements. So now we have this big vein root coming out. And if we want to add another, we can just draw another one next to it here. Next, what I want to do is I want to make the wiggling of the big vein root here to be a bit more natural. So let's get turbulent displace. And then we want to set the amount to 90, size to 15. And then we want to add a little bit of depth just like our other vein. But this time we want to use bevel alpha. Let's set the edge thickness to 10 and we're gonna keep the light angle here. And then we're gonna get tint again to recolor our vein. Set the black color to a black color on the scene. And the white color, let's set it to this bright white. Perfect. So now what I want to do is I want to pre-comp all these effects that we just created. And here we see our elements are being offsetted once we pre-comped it because it has lost its 3D position. So let's turn on the collapse transformation here to bring the 3D position back. Next, we're going to create the burning portal effects. And to do that, we're going to use our smoldering surface collection, which if you download the project files for this tutorial, you will get a free 720p sample of the assets. Okay, so first let's add this asset element to a new pre-comp position, and let's rename the pre-comp here to smoldering surface. And then I want to right click and then on the time stretch, let's split this asset up by 50%. And then we want to trim the comp to adjust. And then let's remove the black background of the assets. So go to the effects and type unmold again, and boom, we have removed the black background. Next, let's recolor this, so add hue and saturation, and change the dial here to somewhere around reddish pink. And then let's go back to the main comp, and bring in the smoldering surface pre-comp that we just made. And then let's turn it to 3D, and position it once again. And then we want to draw a mask on our texture to create our portal. Then let's make this portal reflected on the ground. So let's duplicate this, press S, and then disable the constraint, and then flip it on the Y-axis. And then let's move this down to the ground. And then let's rename this reflection. Then let's get a fast blur to the reflection and want to blur it really high. So now that we have this smoldering surface as our portal, and it has the reflection of that glow on the ground. So next, we want to start adding our glow effects to the smoldering surface. But before we do that, we want to matte our element here first. Like this reflection looks a bit too straight and flat, and we want to have a little bit of disruption on it because we have all these objects on the ground. So let's duplicate our plate and put it at the top of the reflection here. And then let's rename this matte. Let's delete the camera track on the matte. And then we're going to get extract. So what we want to do is we want to key this layer based on the luminance. So let's get an invert here. And we want to push in the black point until we have a little bit more of the ground. And then let's get fast blur. And then we want to set the smoldering surface reflection to alpha inverted towards the matte. There we go. So now we have our reflection, and the reflection is being disrupted a little bit by the irregularity of the ground. And then we also want to do the same thing to our vein and burn effects, because currently it is covering the barrel that we have here. So let's create a new solid. Let's name this matte again and turn it to 3D. And then I want to disable this for now. And then we want to create a shape based on the object that is covering that area. And then we want to put it on top of the burn mark and vein pre-comp. And then we want to once again alpha inverted. So this is without the alpha inverted, this is with. And now to do the glow, I want to first pre-compose the reflection and the matte, and then I want to pre-compose the main smoldering pre-comp again and move all attributes. And then let's turn on the collapse transformation for both. So the reason why I needed to pre-compose the smoldering surface the second time is to make sure that we have an equal clean transformation data between the smoldering surface and its reflection. That way we can add both of them with the same amount of glow and have the same result. So now let's add our glow effects. The first thing I want to do is I want to add it to our smoldering surface on the portal here on the wall. First, let's get exposure and let's bump up our brightness and then add glow and set the threshold to 98, radius to 200, and then let's get camera lens blur and set the radius to 2. Okay, so our glow is looking nice except that we have this weird purple color. So we're going to fix that by going back to the original smoldering pre-comp, and then on the hue and saturation, let's play with the dial a bit to make it a little bit less purple. And then let's go back to the main composition again, and then copy the exposure and the glow to the reflection pre-comp as well. And then reduce the opacity to 30. And then let's also defocus our veins with camera lens blur. And now lastly, let's add the atmospheric stuff. First, I'm going to add this lingering fog effect. We want to turn it to screen and turn it to a 3D layer. And then we want to position it behind our talon here. And then we want to mask out the edge there and feather it really high. And then we want to add tint and set the white color to the bright color of the scene. And then let's add another lingering fog again, and we want to offset the timing a little bit here. And then we're going to do the same thing by putting it behind our actor. Now, to make the fog here to actually look like behind our actor, we're going to need to mask him out. So let's duplicate our plate and put it on top, and then I want to use Roto Brush to mask our actor. If you want to see a full tutorial on how to use Roto Brush, you can check out my other tutorial focusing on that in the description below. Okay, so now we have the smoke on the background. Now let's add one on the foreground using our foreground smoke and fog collection. Next, I want to add air particles. So let's bring one here, turn it to 3D, and we want to scale it down and position it close to the portal. And then I want to add tint and set the white color to the red color of the smoldering surface here. That way, it looks like there are some particles that are illuminated by the portal. So let's create a mask and feather it. And then let's add camera lens blur to make it blend with the background a little bit more. And then we're going to add more layers of air particle and then tint it to the color of the environment. And there we go. That was how to create Stranger Things upside down environment in Adobe After Effects. Once again, if you want to purchase the assets that I used in the tutorial, you can check out our website at actionvfx.com.
At Action VFX, we provide high-quality VFX assets for your VFX needs. We have fire, explosions, energy, and many others. You can also sign up for our Action VFX subscription starting at the low cost of $14.99 a month. This is the most affordable way to access our library, and you can cancel anytime, no contract.